Recall that an equation is a statement, it must have an equal sign, which states that two expressions are equal. As an example, 2 plus 3 equals 5 is an equation. As another example, 2x plus 1 equals 9 is an equation, although this equation has the variable x in it. So by equation in x, we just mean that the variable x appears somewhere. This equation can be solved, right? So subtract 1 on both sides, you have 2x equals 8, divide both sides by 2, and you get x equals 4. And just to put the words to it, right, x equals 4 is the only solution to the equation. 2x plus 1 equals 9. Now the fact that x equals 4 is the only solution means that this is the only number that you can substitute for x, so that the original left side, which was 2x plus 1, equals the original right side, which was 9. Now we have, as example 3, an equation. This is x cubed plus xy plus 6 equals x plus x times y squared. This is an equation in x and y. So instead of solving an equation in x and y when there's two variables, we will do something else. What are we going to do instead? Well, the main goal is to learn and practice this idea, right? So each equation in x and y, such as the one we just saw, has a graph or picture on the xy plane. Okay, so each equation in the two variables x and y, there's a picture. So this is the most important thing really to dig into. So that's why there's a star here. How is an equation in x and y related to its graph? Well, the point xy is part of the graph if xy satisfies the equation, and the point xy is not part of the graph if the point xy does not satisfy the equation. Writing both sentences are required. There is a way to do this that's a little shorter, but I think for now it's helpful to write this as two separate sentences. Here's the thing. This Q&A, this question and answer, is not just merely about trying to look at the question and memorize the answer. No, this is really important to really dig into what this means. I want you to make sure that the text in the blue box at the top, which says each equation in two variables x and y, those kinds of equations, they always have a graph. There's a picture. So the question really is, how is the picture and the equation related to each other? That is answered by this, what's here, the two sentences of this answer. And actually understanding what this means is really important. So to really dig into what this Q&A is really saying, let's look at this. Is the point 2, 3 part of the graph of this equation x cubed plus xy plus 6 equals x plus x times y squared? Well, let's go ahead and plug in 2 for every x and 3 for every y, and the left side turns into 20, while the right side also becomes 20. So because the point 2, 3 satisfies the equation, both sides became 20, we are going to say that the point 2, 3 is a point on the graph of this equation. Here's another question. How about the point 2, 1? Is that a part of the graph of same equation, x cubed plus xy plus 6 equals x plus x times y squared? Well, let's plug in 2 for every x and 1 for every y. On the left side, this is going to become the number 16. And the right side, which says x plus x times y squared, becomes 2 plus 2 times 1 squared. That's going to end up equaling the number 4. So the left side became 16, the right side became 4. So the equation isn't satisfied, right? This point does not satisfy the equation. Therefore, 2 comma 1 is not a point on the graph. Let's go ahead and click on this link and take a look at the graph. Now that we should see 2, 3 as part of the graph and 2, 1, the point 2, 1 as not part of the graph. Okay, so here's online graphing calculator. We're going to click right over here to see what the picture is going to look like. So this is the graph. It consists of many, many, many points, and one of those points is 2, 3, which we had declared and seen was part of the graph, while the point 2, 1 we saw was not part of the graph. So I'll go back to the slides. We just have verification of this. Okay, for the next question, we're going to consider a new equation in x and y. That equation is x squared plus 2y equals 20 minus 4x minus y squared. Now, is the point 5, 4 a point on the graph? And is 1 comma 3 a point on the graph? I would suggest, to make sure that what we did just on the last slide is as clear as possible, that you would pause and try this on your own first. Okay, so let's take a look at one point at a time. let's first look at the point 5 comma 4. So using x equals 5 and y equals 4, is the equation at the top satisfied? Well, the left side becomes 33 and the right side becomes negative 16. So since the equation, these are different numbers, since the equation isn't satisfied by the point 5, 4, we have now learned that 5, 4 is not part of the graph. It's not a point that's on the graph. It's a point, it's just not a point on the graph. How about the point 1, 3? Is that a point that's part of the graph? Well, using x equals 1 and y equals 3, the original equation at the top in the question, the left side becomes 7 and the right side also becomes 7. And so since both sides are equal, so the point 1, 3 is not just a point in the plane, it is a point that is part of the graph. It's on the graph. And let's go now take a look at what the graph looks like. So you'll see here, let's click to turn on this graph. And we had asked, is the point 5, 4 part of the graph? And we see that it's not part of this shape. That happened to be a circle. And then we also asked, is the point 1, 3 part of the graph? And it is. It's one of the many points on this circle that are part of the graph. This point in blue is not. 5, 4 is not, and that was exactly what we saw in the slides here.